Welcome to the From Lab to Patient, Garage to Market podcast with your host, Phil Crowley. In each episode, we will discuss professionals serving the tech startup market and the various issues of importance to those companies. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, CrowleyLawLLC.com. Now here's the host of From Lab to Patient, Garage to Market, Phil Crowley.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We try to bring you individuals who have expertise in the life sciences, technology, and startup worlds to demystify the process, give you a sense of how to succeed, issues to be aware of, things you might not know from your current experience. Today, I'm delighted to have as my guest Dr. Jeannette Mahoney, who is professor of neurology and chief of one of the major divisions at the State University of New York in Stony Brook. She has had a distinguished academic career and has used her research as a springboard to start a company, CatchU. And we're happy to include CatchU as one of our many clients. And I hope you'll stay tuned for the conclusion of our discussion, because I'm going to ask Dr. Mahoney to give us some tips, things that you can use in your particular situation from her experience as not only an academic, but also as an entrepreneur. Jeannette, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a complete honor to be here.
Well, it's very kind. Why don't you tell my audience a little bit about your background and your pathway to your current position and how you decided on this area to be involved in?
Sure, would love to. So I'm a neuroscientist, and I really study how the brain integrates information across various sensory modalities, particularly interested in things that we see and things that we feel, so visual and somatosensory information. And not just how we process it, but how it's related to our everyday life. If you could imagine being in New York City, you're constantly bombarded by so many sensory stimuli, like things you see, things you hear, things you feel. There's so much going on, and your brain has to just automatically process that. And it's fine, because we're actually, from an evolutionary perspective, able to process all of those stimuli and sort of not process the ones that may not be relevant, but those that are sort of life-threatening or require immediate responses, we're really good at doing faster than any one in particular. So I graduated from Stony Brook with my bachelor's, and I was studying psychology. And I decided at that point, I was really fascinated with the brain, how much we could do with it. And so I decided I'd go back to school. A little reluctantly, but I did it anyway, and I was going to study clinical health psychology. At the time, I was also fortunate enough to have had a research assistant position at the Nathan Klein Institute up here in Rockland County with my mentor, John Fox, and we started learning about the sensory integration in young adults, how if you manipulated time and if you manipulated space, how did the brain adjust, and could you still benefit from receiving multisensory, is what we call it, information over just one sensory modality, like unisensory visual or unisensory somatosensory. So I took that further, and I worked on my PhD for all throughout graduate school, and decided after I graduated from Furkhoff, Graduate School of Psychology in the Bronx, that I was going to stay at Einstein, and I was going to become a postdoctoral fellow and really study how this works in aging, because not many people were really looking at it in aging. And what we found is that while there are some different effects in young adults, there is a plethora of ways in which multisensory integration can help older adults, and not many people are studying it. So we were like one of the first to find out that older adults, not everybody, could integrate information at the same rate. In fact, some older adults couldn't integrate at all. And those were the ones that had the problems, right? Those people who were not good at just doing a simple reaction time test where I said, if you see something, respond with your foot as fast as you can. If you feel it, again, as fast as you can, like no cognitive thinking, just go. It's called a simple reaction time go test. And then when the two come together, so a light and a vibration, again, respond as fast as possible. People that could not do that were the ones that we were finding were the ones that had slower gait speed, worse balance, ability to stand on one leg. And then we started thinking, like, these are really important for everyday life. Could it be related to falls? Because poor balance and slow gait are in and of themselves predictors of falls. So we went on to study whether people that had impairments in multisensory integration actually, was it predictive of future falls? And the answer was yes. And it was at that point in my career where Einstein at the time was like, I think you have something here. You know, we want you to disclose. And I was like, well, what does that mean? Disclose? What's going to happen? And they're like, well, it's very simple. You know, we want to protect your intellectual property, which is where I got in touch with Phil. But we can either take it and do it for you, or you can start a company and go down the path of an entrepreneur. That was very scary, but I'm not going to lie. The idea of giving up my baby for the past 15 years was more scary. So I was like, all right, I guess we're doing a business here. And it was like right before COVID that I got accepted into the Westchester County accelerator program. And I was convinced, right? I'm like, this is not for me. I'm a scientist. I'm not a business person. I don't understand what P&L is, and I don't have time for it. So after day one, I told the director, Mary Howard, I'm like, this is not for me. I'm in the wrong place. And she was like, no, you're exactly where you need to be. And I'm like, I don't think so. She was like, please, just stay. And so I did. And with your help, we secured an exclusive license with Einstein, which was a fun event. And, that was back so we started in 2019, I disclosed. In 2020, we worked on the license agreement, right? We formed the company, I believe, in 2021. And then we had fundraising and a whole series of events that happened. And now it's 2025. And I can't believe it's like almost, over 5 years since we started this adventure.
All right, let me stop you there and just clarify for our audience that when you speak about Einstein, it's not Mr. Einstein, it's Albert Einstein College of Medicine. And,
this is true.
And that's where Jeannette was able to put together her work and work with us to try to see how to protect the intellectual property. For those of you who are not familiar with protection of intellectual property, the important thing that Jeannette was able to do with Albert Einstein College of Medicine was to file a patent application within 1 year after she had published a paper or made the information generally available. If she had had that discussion with Albert Einstein College of Medicine before she disclosed it, she would have been eligible for patent protection worldwide. But having disclosed it, she could only get, and Albert Einstein could only obtain patent protection in the United States. But still, it sounds like it was a very exciting journey for you, Jeannette. And, many academicians, many of whom I hope are watching our podcast, find that their research is totally fulfilling and occupies all of their time. I'm so admiring of you to have done all that, and on top of that, decided to form a company. Why form a company to commercialize your work?
Yeah. Feedback, sorry. The reason why was I was convinced we had something special here. And at the same time, my grandma was going through a series of events after a fall and a downward spiral in health, and it actually led to her demise. And it all emanated back from that fall. And this was happening concurrently while, in fact, I have visions of us talking about the license agreement while I was in South Carolina, and this was all going down. And I was like, I made a promise to myself that whatever I did, I had to do this in the name of her. And I had to get this to the people, because to have something special in the lab is great. Publish a paper, get it out to people, but not everybody's reading that. I mean, you're targeting a scientific community, right? The rewarding part is getting it to the people, being able to see the clinical translational value of the work that you're doing in your day job and being able to bring it to the people. Now, people would say to me, and I got it all the time, like, why not just give it for free? And believe me, I would love to, but everything costs money. And to be able to commercialize something, you have to be able to keep the lights on. You have to be able, to pay your vendors. So I never really did this to make money. I did it to get to the people. And it's sort of the road that came with the second job, if you will.
That's right. The second simultaneous job. What surprised you most about your experience in becoming an entrepreneur as opposed to, an esteemed academic in an academic environment?
I think finding time to do both. At first, it was really hard, right? I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, and being, you know, a mom to two kids and a husband and two dogs, it's like the third job, and it was like, how am I going to do this? But with an academic position, you're allowed a certain amount of time to work on extracurriculars that are related to your job, so that actually helps.
Mhm.
And then you just muscle through nights and weekends, whenever you can, you get this work done because it means something so much to you. We're not there yet, but we're really close, and I don't really regret it at all.
Well, that's great. You mentioned that it sounded like Albert Einstein College of Medicine was pretty supportive of your going forward and commercializing your technology. Are there things that institutions should be thinking about in terms of kind of facilitating their academics, their faculty, to be able to form companies the way you were able to form a company?
I think that's a great question, Phil, because people are scared, right? Even I was scared. You don't know you don't know the road ahead of you, and you're in your day job, and the idea of doing something new and something scary, which most startups are really not successful, is a scary road to partake. They were supportive, and in fact, they were the ones who told me, like, we'll do this for you, but you may want to keep it yourself. So they were great with providing options. I think that if they could, and not just Albert Einstein, I'm sure many institutions could do a better job of promoting sort of the road ahead, the sort of debunking some of the pieces of or the bits of information that make it so daunting, and letting you know that, like, we're in this together. That sense of partnership, the sense that we got your back, that is so important, because it's really easy to fall off that curve, and nobody wants to do it. But I think that if institutions would just be a little more proactive in letting people know the road ahead and how they'll be there to support them, I think they'll find that more people will want to do the inventions, more people will want to disclose, and less people will go out and do things sort of like, on the DL.
Right. Well, in many young companies, there are just a whole host of issues to deal with, a whole host of problems and expertise you needed. And I'm sure one of the talents that you developed was the ability to put together a team. It's a little bit different from getting postdocs to come into your lab and work with you. How did you tell us a little bit about how you addressed filling out your team with people with some experience that was complementary to your scientific experience?
Sure. So I think a lot of this actually was part and parcel for being part of the Westchester County Accelerator program, the WCBA. I was actually part of the inaugural class, which started in 2020. And we had like a 2-week boot camp where we learned all the sort of insides and outs to starting a business. But then it went on to be this constant introduction to people and mentors. And I had a coach who's still with me, Lori Lonzak, who happens to know you really well. And I'm so fortunate to have her by my side throughout these past 5 years as we've gone up and down on this roller coaster. And she happened to be a former J&J person, so she has and a pharmacist, so she has a huge background in pharmacy and medicine and in marketing. Like, that's her thing. And she was such an asset to me during boot camp. And I asked her at the end, I was like, I think we have something here. Would you be willing to stay on? And she was like, I don't usually do that, but I believe you. I feel like there is something here. And I was like I was the first mentee that she ever took on board from her 8 or 9 years at WCBA or eLab NYC, which was very heartwarming to me. And then we had we were always connected with people. You had an FDA regulatory question, let me put you in touch with this person. If you had a business issue, I was actually put in touch with Bob Koch, who actually was instrumental with you in forming the license agreement with Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and is still a member of our board today. So what I found is that in doing this boot camp and staying on with the program, it opened so many doors. And whenever I had a problem or a question, I knew that I could reach out and be like, I don't know who I should be talking to. And within like hours, not even days, hours, we'd have like, let me get you to talk to so-and-so. And it was just like, wow, these people really care, like they had my back, and they still do. I could still reach out today, and I'm so fortunate to be part of that.
Oh, that's great. Let me take a moment here, Jeannette, to acquaint our audience with Crowley Law. We are a boutique law firm of experienced lawyers who are passionate about helping life sciences and other technology entrepreneurs realize their dreams. And it's like taking things from the laboratory to the patient's bedside, or from the garage, or in some cases, the dining room table, to the marketplace, to enrich the lives of thousands or millions of people. As a former research physicist, I understand how difficult it is to create new knowledge. And so I and my team have a warm spot in our heart for those innovators out there who are doing new things, creating new knowledge. And as a group of experienced corporate lawyers, we understand the difficulties of taking even great ideas from the lab into the marketplace to create products and services that can be commercialized. And so we have a website, crowleylawllc.com, that has a wealth of resources available that are focused on the legal questions that come up for entrepreneurs. We also have this podcast. And later this year in 2025, we will be publishing on Amazon a book, a Kindle book, a paperback book, and an Audible book, Avoid Startup Failure, the top 10 causes of failure for technology startups and how to turn them to your advantage. So I hope you will tune in to that, and we'll announce that publication on the website. And also, I hope you subscribe to this podcast and visit our website for those free resources. And just remember that we're here to help. Now, back to Jeannette. Jeannette, you learned a lot about marketing, and it was some surprising information that you were able to garner about fall risk in the United States and worldwide that I think kind of impelled you and Lori to really focus on this. Can you give us kind of an outline of how prevalent falls are, particularly now as we have seniors who are living longer and longer and surviving, and what happens when they have that fall like your grandmother did?
Yeah, I mean, it's really bad news. I mean, 1 in 3 older adults is going to go on to have a fall after the age of 65. And it costs our society, the cost to society is over $50 billion a year. And that number is just about to double in 5 years' time. It's going to be over $100 billion a year that we spend on falls. And the answer is, or the question I have is, why are we spending so much money on this? And when we did our marketing and our research as to like what's currently available, I know that there's an annual wellness visit as soon as somebody turns 65, and you have the welcome to Medicare kind of thing. You're like, what goes on? And it's true. There are specific questions about falls. Phil, when you go to your doctor, you hear the have you had a fall in the past 1 year? Yes or no. And do you have a fear of falling? Yes or no. And you'll tick the boxes. They'll say yes, no, but it doesn't promote anything else. They basically, just by you answering the questions, you have filled out the annual wellness visit information. And that's not good enough. If you think about older adults, especially those maybe 80, 90 getting up there, they may also have cognitive complaints, cognitive impairments. They may not be able to remember whether or not they had a fall. So I said to myself, we have to do something better. We have to use a test, something that is so simple that anybody can do anywhere in the world, just as a window to the brain, and be able to say, you know what, based on your performance here, you're at a high risk for fall. So what are we going to do about that? And the answers are there. The CDC has complete, very large data sets on what is the best treatment for somebody who is at risk for falling, whether it be engaging in Tai Chi, or, you know, working out your core, or getting home health safety services at the house to see if you have uneven surfaces, or, you know, whether you should get those grip bars in the shower. The tools are there. We're just not getting them to the people. So what was really important for us when we put together CatchU was to use this scientifically based 15 years worth of work test, get it on a phone, get it to the people, have the people take the test, answer a few demographic questions, a few medical health questions, so that with their performance on the test and those answers to those questions, we could use algorithms to determine what are like the top 10 recommendations that the physician should give the patient. And by the way, if they turn out to have a risk for falls, we need you back in 6 months, because we want to see if you followed through any of the recommendations and whether or not your ability to integrate this information has changed. And the hope is that it will, because hopefully the patients will understand, like, wow, I had no idea I was at risk for falls. I took this 10-minute test. It says I am. I need to do something about it. So hopefully people will get motivated by that, because if, I don't know about you, but everybody I talk to has a sad story about somebody, whether it be a grandparent or a family member or a neighbor who's had a fall, and it's basically changed their whole life. So This is really important. I think you can tell I'm pretty passionate about it. And I'm hoping that we can be the ones to sort of change the standard of care on how falls are actually measured, and really take action in terms of providing people with their independence back.
Can you tell us a little bit about your application? I know you have an app for an iPhone, and can you tell us how that app interacts with the patient and how the information may get to the physician who is treating the patient?
Sure. The current model that we have right now is that we have the test is commercially available through the App Store. You can download it. That's just about all you can do with it, because you need some sort of passwords. Because the idea is, Philip, you wanted to go to your doctor for whatever, just a general checkup. And he was like, you know, we should do this test just in case. Well, your doctor would have a special code, and that code could be put into the app, and it would open up the test. That special code that they have links you to that doctor and make sure that that doctor gets your report as soon as you're done with the test. And so you would take the 10-minute test after you filled out the questions, and it's really simple. You would just like cradle your phone and have the bottom, like 1/8 of it is a gray area, and you would look at a fixation cross, and as soon as you saw some stars, you would hit as soon as possible. As soon as the back of the phone vibrated, you would hit as soon as possible. They'll come together or they'll come alone, and all you're doing is responding. It's like 2.5 minute blocks. And all that data gets to your doctor in a fancy 1-page report. And what happens is, we know how busy doctors are. I can appreciate how busy doctors are and how many things they have to get through in their little 10 or 15-minute session with a patient. And we don't need to be giving doctors more things to do. So what we did when we worked very hard to do is say, like, all right, well, how can we make this a win-win opportunity? How can we get this to the people, have the doctors be able to order the test and give the results back to the test in a way that didn't add something else for them to do for no reimbursement? And so we were able to sort of find a telehealth medicine reimbursement for providers. We've also been talking to people that are non-physicians, like personal trainers that can use some wraparound services to assess whether or not they think somebody's at risk for a fall, and then move towards a personalized training program that would allow them to increase their strength and mobility. So it can be used in various different settings, depending, but the most common would be for a doctor to onboard and be able to get that special code, order the test. The patient can, some doctors might use it and have a service and be able to go the telehealth medicine route, and some people, like people that don't have reimbursement, might do pass the cost of the test to the patient. But it's a small price to pay for what's in store if you don't know if you're at risk for a fall.
Well, that's another capability that you have acquired. And it's something that I think people in the life sciences and medical products businesses and development areas really need to keep in mind. And that's the work that you did to find a way to get the test reimbursed, because payment for tests is sometimes a sore point with patients, and doing the work to find a reimbursement code, or in some cases, actually get the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services to create a new code for something is really important in order to ensure that people can afford the test or can have a test without necessarily having to take any money, or at least any substantial amount of money, out of their own pockets. So it kind of underscores for me the importance of kind of a holistic view of the process that you learned at the Westchester Accelerator, which seems to have been a really beneficial experience for you. Have you entered into any other pitch competitions or that sort of thing to kind of test your ideas and get your ideas out there?
Yeah, we have a few. Some were no's, some or maybes, and others that we're sort of exploring now are looking promising. So more on that as soon as I know. But if I could, the one thing I wanted to say to your listeners is that what I really found special, Phil, was our 1 hour sort of talk before we became like client and lawyer. You really took the time to say, like, what do you think you have? Where do you want to go? Where do you think I could be useful? And it wasn't just like, I'm taking you on as a client because I want to. It was an interview where you were also interviewing me to see if you could use your skills to help. And I felt like that was a really great moment in my life where I felt like that established some immediate trust. And I was very fortunate to have been selected to be with you.
Well, thank you very much for that, Jeannette. As I said, I was a former physics researcher. My work was in superconductivity, which is one of the technologies that helps make MRI scanners work. And I had the opportunity, as I was in my graduate program at Harvard, to see that I was becoming about 7 miles deep and only about a half an inch wide. And I wanted to have a greater feeling that I was helping people. And so I have such great admiration for people like you, Jeannette, who have taken that idea and have really worked hard on it. And I really find that many of the people who are most passionate about their developments in the life sciences have stories like yours, where you've been personally touched by a tragedy or a disease and realize that you have the capability to help other people avoid that, and say, even though it's scary, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Do you have any tips you can give aspiring entrepreneurs, things from your experience that you can share to help them on their pathway to hopefully to success as life sciences or technology entrepreneurs?
I mean, the major one is don't give up. You need to persevere. If you have something and you believe in yourself and you are surrounded by others who really believe in you, it would be such a shame to give up when you're so close, even though it seems like one day you could just wake up and be like, forget it, I'm done. You can't. You gotta just, truck on through and make your dreams a reality. Because at the end of the day, you're the one, that has to get over that finish line. And you have to know that there are so many people that are willing to help. There are so many people that could be generous in other ways than just being investors. People are very generous with their time, with their knowledge. Being part of these accelerators it may seem like daunting, like who in the world might want to go back to school or start doing reports and homework, but it's not about just learning. It's about the opportunities and the doors that open and the connections that are still flowing in 5 years. So yeah, I would definitely say you got to keep on trucking. You got to stay with it. And be the first one in line to believe in what you have, because if you don't, people will see right through you. I think I would put it there.
All right. Well, and I would also say that one of your success factors has been the ability to reach out and acquire help from others, and to put yourself in a position where, to a certain extent, you're constantly learning, and not in the academic environment, but in the commercial environment, because there are different lessons to be learned there and different people with whom you can interact. And you don't have to have the feeling that you have to do it all by yourself. There are people out there that you can find who can help you along the pathway, the same way you found my friend Lori Lonzak.
So lucky. And as I was stomping on your words, I was going to say, don't be afraid to ask for help. Really don't. Like, you'll be surprised what you can learn. And if somebody doesn't know that answer and they're willing to help you, they're going to find somebody who will be able to help you. So you got to be in it for the long haul.
That's terrific, Jeannette. Well, the half hour has really flown by. I've enjoyed this so much and have great regard for the work you're doing, and wish you great success. And for those of you who are listening, please subscribe to our podcast. Visit our website, CrowleyLawLLC.com. Make use of our resources, and just remember that we're here to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You've been tuning into the From Lab to Patient, Garage to Market podcast with your host, Phil Crowley. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, CrowleyLawLLC.com. If you found this information helpful, please subscribe, like, leave a positive review, and share with others.